I call the Tuesday, May 5th Board of Public Works and Safety meeting. Call to attention. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Bert Cook.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of minutes. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Public comment.
No comments yet, Your
We
Mayor.
have no comment yet. We will relook at this since we are live on social media and we want to include as much of the public as we can. We'll look at that at the end of the meeting. Clerk Treasurer Parthun, claims approval.
Okay, we have payroll for May 1st, 2020 in the amount of $384,767.38.
Second.
I apologize, I was slow on the draw there. Do I have a motion?
Yes, I move we approve the May 1st payroll.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion?
This is difficult.
Hearing none. All in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 3-0.
Okay. We have civil city claims for May 5th, 2020 in the amount of $740,147.74, which includes May 2020 health insurance and first quarter local match to transit.
I move we approve the civil city claims for May 5th.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 3-0.
We have water claims in the amount of $98,259.10, which includes May 2020 health insurance.
Make a motion that we approve the water claims.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor state by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes 3-0.
We've got wastewater claims in the amount of $205,024.53. That also includes May 2020 health insurance.
I'll make a motion that we approve the wastewater claims.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 3-0.
And then finally, I also have a request for approval to transfer $100,000 to the police pension as a temporary loan until we receive our June settlement from PERF.
I move we transfer the $100,000 to the police pension fund.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion? I assume this is a normal process. It is. Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. That's it? Department reports, again, while we're virtual, we will not be doing that, so we'll move right to new business. Request for use, Go Aerial Fitness.
Hi, Angela Rose, Downtown Director. Go Ariel contacted me this past week with the change in the executive order from the governor. They would like the permission to host fitness classes in partnership with Urban Fitness at Plaza 618. They are asking Monday through Saturday, 10:30 to 11:30, so a 1-hour class. And then Tuesday and Thursdays, a 6 p.m. class, which I believe will be a Zumba class. These are limited to paying members. That way they can practice social distancing and put safety precautions in place. So we're asking for your consideration on this.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the use of the plaza for Aerial Fitness and Urban Fitness.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion. Angela, is this open to all businesses that have access to this or would want to use it, that they'd be able to do so?
Yeah, any business can contact me if they're interested in using the plaza, and I will coordinate the schedule for that. It's open to anybody. The specific classes will be specific to the Urban Fitness paying membership and the Go Aerial Fitness paying members. That way they can limit the amount of people in the space.
And if for some reason, such as, let's say, Mr. Kosher injures himself while doing yoga there, are we, the city, responsible in any way?
I would think.
No, they are signing liability waivers for the classes, as well as I've submitted their certificate of insurance, so it'll be covered under Go Aerial Fitness's certificate.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
So since it's limited to paying members for the class, like what if someone comes there and is outside of the class and is kind of participating? Is there any issue there? Or, I mean, I don't really see any issue on our part, but I just wondering how they're going to handle that.
I believe that they'll be asked to not necessarily leave, but they cannot participate since there are certain precautions. You have spacing so that there's that 6-foot distance between people. That plaza can fill up pretty quickly. So I believe, I'm not 100% sure how they would handle that. I think it would just be on a case-by-case basis.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, this is not something that should hold us up. I think it's a very nice idea. I'm just thinking people could stand on the sidewalk and, stand next to each other and participate without paying or whatever. So just something for them to consider, or us to consider, how we would handle that.
Or if somebody wanted just to sit at the table and not participate, but the public won't be stopped from using the tables or sitting relaxing during that time, correct?
Correct. They just staying out of the way of the Zumba. I know that can get kind of intense sometimes.
It might be a good opportunity for them at that time to invite those people that are interested to join as members either of the fitness clubs, and in that way promote their businesses.
I agree. And with the restrictions being what they are still, this is a great way for some of our local businesses to kind of get a jump and start their businesses up again, but in a safe and kind of new way.
Right. Visual.
Yep.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of allowing Aerial Fitness to use 618? In favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Clerk
Thank
Treasurer.
you.
Clerk Treasurer Parthun, City of LaPorte Trash Removal Service for Bureau of Motor Vehicles.
Okay, the Bureau of Motor Vehicles is requesting trash removal as they already have their own trash removal service. Supporting documents are attached to the removal request. They have shown that they use another trash removal service. If approved, this would remove $10.41 from their City of LaPorte utility bill. So I am requesting that the board removes trash removal for the Bureau of Motor Vehicles.
I'll make a motion that we exclude trash removal from the BMV.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion?
Are there other businesses or organizations that are excluded from these services and paying for them?
That are excluded and pay for them?
No, that have been granted this similar exclude.
Yes, and it's actually allowable under certain conditions as long as they meet the criteria of ordinance number 2-2019, which is an ordinance to amend ordinance 30-2014 to modify the schedule of service charges for municipal refuse and garbage collection under chapter 86 of the municipal code of the city of LaPorte.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Nick Otis, NIPSCO easements.
Thank you. I have, I'm gonna mute there. No. Before the Board of Works this morning are two easements, just slightly modifying easements that were already in place for NIPSCO. These are for NIPSCO poles. They're both on the Washington Street area, kind of very close to where the LEAP offices are. NIPSCO is upgrading these poles, and as a result, the poles are going to be larger, and then what is called the kind of the guys wire that secures the pole is going to be a little longer, so the easements just need to be extended a little bit. So I provided an email from the attorney from NIPSCO explaining this, and I'll be happy to answer any questions on this.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion?
The cost of this is only $10 to the city. Is that correct? Or we're charging them $10?
We're charging them.
We are charging them $10.
We're charging them.
Correct. Any other discussion? All those in favor state by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Ivy Tech Memorandum of Understanding. This is the understanding that's been in place for the city of LaPorte for 5 years. The renegotiation came up, and this is one that myself, Bert Cook from LEAP, have partnered in LEAP in the city of LaPorte. We did not feel comfortable extending another 5 years till we understand, feel more comfortable we're going to receive value for the city. We negotiated a 1-year deal. It gives Ivy Tech the opportunity to show us that LaPorte is a reasonable area for them, and they're going to promote and focus on it to allow our students access and provide availability and opportunity. So this will be a 1-year, $25,000 commitment, and we will evaluate that in 2021.
I'll make a motion that we approve the memorandum of understanding with Ivy Tech.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
So, Mayor Dermody, so in evaluating this next year, how do you foresee making this evaluation? And based upon what criteria do we think, like how are we going to evaluate the value that they're providing for this next year?
We're working on metrics. Bert, I think, has been the lead on that. Do you want to go ahead and talk about that?
Sure. Mark, we sat down with Ivy Tech and a group of select employers within our community. I'm not sure if I remember each one, but I think Monosol, American Licorice, Packaging Logic, Arconic,
New York
maybe
Blower, I
American
think.
Renault was there. So a big subset of our manufacturing community. Together, we talked through the different metrics that they find valuable and that Ivy Tech would also agree to. I don't have those right in front of me, but they deal with things like retention rate, growth of wages over the training period, coursework, the number of people, the quantity of people that are going through, So there's a series of metrics that were included as part of an agreed upon reporting structure. We'll process that at the end of this year in November. And at that point, we'll be able to come back to the city, to the Board of Public Works with a recommendation as to whether or not this is beneficial moving forward.
And will it be Ivy Tech, or will it be these businesses that are having their employees training with Ivy Tech? Who's going to report back on the metrics?
So both. It comes. We wanted to make sure that on both sides. So Ivy Tech has some reporting, and ultimately they're responsible for providing the report. Some of the data comes from Ivy Tech. Some of it comes from our business community. We think that's the best way to make sure that we've got a balanced assessment of the programs.
Okay.
And we do find that the manufacturers have found, have had positive experiences and feel this is valuable to the growth of their business. We just have to have some metrics so we know what we're grading against.
Okay. No, I think that's good. I'd be interested in addition to any, sort of the hard metrics, the numbers and percentages, I'd also like to hear from, some of the employers, just generally speaking, like the value that this is bringing. I mean, obviously the training is always good, but to find out a little bit more, for example, like we got short-term CNC programming. So to find out like what that impact is in their businesses in comparison to maybe someone who's there at the business, who's maybe an expert already. So I just would like to understand that a little bit better, but no, I think that's a good idea. I think we should just make sure we understand what it is bringing to the benefit to the businesses and to the community.
Bert, is this something that the groups within LEAP have been working on? So the retention and expansion group or the workforce development group?
Yes, they're.
Ivy Tech to get that, are they included in those group discussions so that they understand what?
Yeah, there's a number, Jessica. There's a number of groups that are involved. So this 5 years ago, this agreement originated between a partnership between the city and the mayor's office and the Urban Enterprise Association. So they've been partnering together to each put $25,000 into the program. Yep. It also goes through LEAP's R&E committee and our workforce task force. There's connections there as well. So there are a number of groups that are all working together. I think that's a big portion of the long-term success of this, is making sure that there's a strong partnership that exists between the whole of the city and Ivy Tech.
Mayor, can you mute real quick?
And also to make sure that we set the Ivy Tech up for success so that they understand what we're wanting and provide them with clear performance guidelines, right?
I would tell you that based on our meeting, I am 100% certain that they have a crystal clear understanding of what is expected of them and how that will be utilized moving forward. And Mark, I'll make sure we get some more narrative too that goes along with that from the employers. I think that will be a helpful piece of information as well.
Okay, thanks, Bert.
Bert, quick question for you. The memorandum of understanding indicates, so the LaPorte Urban Enterprise Zone is committing $25,000 to this project, and then the city of LaPorte through the CEDAT funds is committing another $25,000. Is that correct? $50,000 total?
Oh, Tom,
Down, turn it up.
your volume.
Go ahead, Bert, if you don't mind repeating that.
Oh, I'm sorry. So Nick, the 25,000 from the LaPorte Urban Enterprise Association, and then from the mayor's from the CEDAT budget, the UEA has already authorized that, and they asked that the mayor and myself sort of participate with those discussions. So the UEA is already on board with this, correct?
And the payment does not happen until the contract attorney Otis, till they send back the 1-year agreement versus the 5-year.
Right. Does that make sense, Joni?
Yeah, well, in the previous years, we've only paid them $25,000 total.
Right, the city's only paying 25.
This is the 1-year agreement, isn't it?
This is
Should-
actually,
it should
it
be.
still says 5 years on it, but
Mine said
Oh,
1
I thought
year.
it said the term was from March 18th, 2020 until March 31st, 2021, just 1 year.
it says here, whereas in the middle, Ivy Tech has lease
Yeah,
space.
I thought that was
Okay.
like prior knowledge.
that's
Is that
correct.
right, Nick, or no?
That's a separate
Okay. so
agreement
we're good on
between
this
them
agreement.
and Space Center, right?
Bert, did you also pay though? Joni had a question. The city paid 25,000. Was it 25,000 total or 25,000 for the city and 25,000 for LEAP
In previous years.
in previous years?
Not Mayor, not LEAP, but the LaPorte Urban Enterprise
Urban
Association. And it was 25,000 from each. So the original agreement envisioned the matching grants from CEDAT and from the UEA. That was how that was negotiated originally. So the city signed an agreement for 5 years. The UEA had done it year over year. But yes, that's correct. It's 25 from each entity.
50,000 total.
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Jen Knoll,
Morning.
good morning.
I've got a policy regarding temporary internal department transfers. This is in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. So with that pandemic going on, the city has had to temporarily close offices to the public and cancel and postpone certain events. This has impacted the jobs of select employees. So some employees do not have enough work to do. So in an effort to keep staff employed and avoid any layoffs, we want to allow temporary internal transfers between departments within the city to allow for that. So do you hear that? I'm sorry.
You're fine.
Is she your temporary laborer?
Yes. Hold on. So we would like to have this approved, and this is in kind of in line with what the State Board of Accounts would require for us to be able to pay from different departments. So asking for your approval for this policy.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second discussion. And some of the difficulty that you may recognize, Board of Work members in private business doesn't necessarily work in government. And you can't just say, hey, we need to move this person over here and move from the civic to police or civic to street department. You have to have, Jen has to go through a lot of loops and paperwork to transfer people to what positions, and I'm learning quickly, you just can't have one department pay for another without going through those same loops. So it's quite an interesting process to keep people employed, even if they're moving from one department to another. Is that a fair way to say it, Jen?
I would say so, yes.
Yeah.
I think this is awesome. Jen, can you just give us like an idea, maybe one example of, you know, where someone might move from one department to help another department?
Yeah, I mean, right now we've got, we also put a hold on some hiring of seasonal workers that we hire every year. So Beechwood was impacted by that. We've got an employee from the street department and then also code enforcement that will be moving over to Beechwood to help with their lawn maintenance.
Gotcha, okay. Does that apply to the mayor maybe doing some work out at Beechwood also? Or,
I would think so, yeah.
okay.
I was ready to cut grass and Mr. Schreiber turned me down, so he's seen my grass cutting skills.
There were a couple of fixed spots. I actually think I lost a ball I should have found. So if we can maybe work on that a little later.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. All right, I'm excited, Mary Ann. Mary Ann Richards' recommendations to award a contract to Jacob and Hefner for pre-demolition building survey at Tibma Bakery.
Good morning. This is a cooperative, collaborative project amongst code enforcement, engineering, and the CDBG program. Nick Minnick was kind enough to obtain 3 quotes to do a pre-demolition building survey for the Tibma Bakery property at 404 McCullum. The reason why we did that is there is a significant amount of junk, trash, debris, you name it, in the inside of this building. Plus, with it being a former light manufacturing site, bakery, we would feel better in doing due diligence before we demolished it, making sure that there were no hazardous materials inside the building or around the building, and then to get those cleaned up. Jacob and Hefner provided the most responsive, lowest quote in the amount of $2,700. And there was one company that submitted a lower quote. However, it did not include the hazardous materials survey. It just was doing asbestos and lead. Jacob and Hefner is doing hazardous material, asbestos, as well as lead. So we're recommending that we enter into an agreement with Jacob and Hefner in the amount of $2,700. This would be paid out of the CDBG program funds for demolition.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion. Mary Ann, and when will they start, and when do you expect them on the pre-demo survey to finish?
Let me look and see again. It does not say.
No, it doesn't.
I would hope that we could get it started within 2 weeks.
And
I'm anticipating it shouldn't take more than a day or two to do the actual survey, the site visit, and then whatever time it takes to do get the sample analysis lab reports back.
And once that, what happens if they find something? What changes?
It will delay the project because then we will have to hire certified licensed professionals to come in and remediate the site, remove the hazardous materials. The lead paint I'm not concerned about, but the any asbestos and any other chemicals I would be concerned about. But I don't see it as a major issue. Fortunately, there's no underground storage tanks. That's my biggest concern.
And then the next step is actual demo?
Right, we can solicit quotes for demolition.
So if we're lucky, this could be, the demo could begin in July, maybe.
Yes.
That's fantastic. That's been a eyesore for a while, so great job on getting this completed. And our Board of Works members, are both of you familiar with Tidma Bakery over by the Civic? It's
Yes.
a great opportunity to clean that up, and from a safety perspective, and also look at, in the future, doing something with that property that we will then own.
Will the funds to demo the building come from CDBG as well?
Yes.
Oh, great. Marianne, I had one question, and I don't know if this is for you or for Nick, but for the lead-based paint survey, they're using an Illinois licensed person. Does that cause any issues since we're in Indiana, or?
No, it doesn't. Indiana has reciprocal agreements with Illinois and Michigan to use certified assessors from those states. And then Indiana assessors, folks who are certified in Indiana, can do it in Michigan and Illinois.
Okay, thank you.
Do you see the opportunity, does the county have CDBG funds? Maybe they want to partner in some of the demos in the city of LaPorte.
No, the county is not an entitlement community. The only CDBG funds they have are the ones that they just recently obtained from Okra for COVID activities.
Okay.
And those funds are not to be used within the city of LaPorte.
Okay, because I wasn't sure if they wanted to partner on some projects, so, but, okay, any other discussion, questions? Hearing none, all in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. And I forgot, if I didn't say, department heads, if you don't have an item, don't feel like you have to stick around. Mary Ann, approval of change order number 2 for PY 18 HORP contract with SLR Plumbing.
When you're working with old houses, things happen as you do work. This is a change order for $522 at 406 Allen Street and $400 at 418 Allen Street. We developed a leak in a clawfoot tub in the faucet that needed to be replaced. The reason why is, number one, it was leaking. Number two, we had to do remediation on the bathtub and have it painted because it showed up positive for lead paint. We couldn't complete the painting of it unless we got the leak repaired. Plus, there were no shutoff valves on the faucet for the clawfoot tub, so we figured, well, the plumber was in there, we might as well rectify that situation. And then there was a leak that developed in the laundry drain in the basement at 418 Allen. The repairs were $400. So I'm asking for authorization to approve this change order to cover those expenses. We do have the money in the CDBG fund to cover these expenses. None of these will come out of the general fund.
Do I have a motion?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Discussion? And Mary Ann, just walk us back through. So this is someone that applied, said, I've got a leaky bathroom faucet.
Well, she had other things that were on the work scope. These are items that developed while we were there doing the repairs. These are additional plumbing repairs.
But that's how it started originally with the plumbing.
Pardon?
The original repair order was for flooding or plumbing issues, correct?
Correct.
Jessica, I'm sorry.
That's okay. How far back, Mary Ann, do we go typically to correct or improve on work that we've done? Because this was started originally back in 2018.
Well, it's program year 2018, which started October 1st of 2018 through September 30th of 2019. These folks applied for the program back in 2018. The contract was issued in October of 2019. We run a year behind in the homeowner repair program because of the funding lags and the program year versus the calendar year. So that's why it says program year 20, PY18. That's not a program. Pardon?
It looks a lot older than it actually is.
Right.
I see. I understand.
And HUD gives us 3 years to use the money. So this money will be expended within that 3-year period.
Okay.
But as well, we've really shifted a focus onto demolition of some houses. We have the house, I think one example, Mary Ann, is the house across from Dairy Queen on Lincoln Way. The
Right.
garage has the tarp, was flapping. I think Jeff went and took care of that. But that's a house that needs to come down, and we're really shifting that focus to demos of some houses that are needing to go.
Right, but we have a finite amount of funding from CDBG, so we'll do what we can this year and hopefully next year take care of a couple more houses. Tidma Bakery's gonna eat up most of the money that's budgeted.
Yeah, I would imagine so. That's going to be in terms of demolition, isn't it?
Yeah.
But we are open to sponsorships of demolition. You can have your name on the demo, so. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Nick Minnick.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Fire station pay application number 5.
You should have received pay application number 5 for the fire station project in the amount of $327,997.56. Project is going very well. Would recommend payment in that amount.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion. So Nick, do I notice that this, did I read this that it over budget? Not by a lot, but it is over budget, or no? From the original contract?
Well, we made changes with the original contract.
Okay.
So we haven't seen significant overages since the original contract was put in place.
So you would call it within budget?
Yes,
Would-
yeah.
Okay. Any other,
I'm
Jessica?
just curious, it says that the total change orders are approved by the owner. Who approves the change orders?
Board of Works approves the change orders. So usually with a project like this, we'll receive a change request. And then if it seems reasonable, a lot of times in order to not slow construction, we would allow them to start that, and then it would come to the Board of Works as an actual change order for your approval,
Regardless of the dollar amount?
regardless of the dollar amount.
And what if the change order saves money? You still bring that before the board?
Correct, yeah. A change order is a change to a contract, and if it saves money or costs more money, it still needs to be identified in the contract.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Mr. Kosher?
Oh, I'm sorry, I said I did not catch it, sorry.
Okay.
I'm looking down.
All, so opposed, motion passes 3-0. Stone Lake Lakeshore Drive Trail. This is exciting time, Nick Minnick.
Well, it'd be more exciting if prices came in just a little lower. We did do a virtual bid opening. This was our first project where we did all online bidding. We had 3 bidders, Gary Up Construction, Walsh & Kelly, and Reith Riley. Bids came in with Gary Up being the lowest, most responsive bidder at $986,500. Walsh & Kelly was at $1,067,121.24, and then Reith Riley was $1,112,093.91. So we're looking at about $100,000 between each contractor. Our grant was in the amount of $887,000, and our engineer's estimate was kind of right on that number at $898,000. So bids did come in a little higher than we expected. Today, what I would request is that you accept these bids and allow us to work with our engineer and the park department to do some value engineering and make sure that we can award this project with the grant dollars that we have received. So I would request to have these bids accepted, and then we would make a formal recommendation for award at the next Board of Works meeting.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion. So Nick, what does that mean? My fear is, what'd you call it? Value engineering? I don't want to reduce the look of it or lower the quality of look to it.
No, that's our goal. Our goal is to make sure that we're maintaining the kind of quality project that was designed. There's aspects of the project that we'll look to, move into another project or find another funding source for. The goal would be not to really do a lot of cutting, but kind of getting creative about where we're getting funding and working with park department and trying to find a little extra money. But then there will be things that we'll probably want to do some cutting. Items, for instance, we had some really nice lighting. Lighting does exist, so that'd be one thing that we could cut and then hopefully add back if the budget allowed as the project starts. But the goal is to maintain that high quality project.
I have concern, so how much short are we talking difference? 100,000?
It ends up being with engineering design fees paid out of that grant, more than that, so more than $100,000.
I really, just what you say right there about the lighting concerns me right off the bat. Can we send this back out to rebid and ask the numbers to come in tighter?
We could reject bids and rebid if you'd like to do that. That's that would be up to the board. I would recommend, we don't want the project to drag on.
Correct.
We had a pre-construction meeting with Walsh and Kelly for the street paving project, and they're very, very willing to work with us on schedule. So one of our concerns was that the street paving portion of this and the trail portion of this wouldn't necessarily mesh schedule-wise. With their willingness to work with us on schedule, if we kind of review this further and look at other opportunities for funding and really hone in on the design and figure out what works best, we could come back to the board and you could then, I believe, reject and rebid at that point. You would be accepting the bids today, but I do believe you could still not award.
But what happened, the engineer that we hired, he was pretty much in line at the 887, right? With the estimate.
Yeah.
What jumped 100 grand? Fuel's down? I mean, what jumped?
When you look at the bids, and you compare the three companies, it's really hard to tell because the low bidder of Garriup has some items that are very much in line with the engineer's estimate, and then some that are high, and it goes the same way for Walsh and Kelly and Reith Riley. I think a lot of it is just bid strategy and looking where the numbers are. There isn't a single item across the three bids that is a lot higher than the engineer's estimate. It's just how everything came together with the three bidders that the numbers came out higher. So for example, one contractor may have been below the engineer's estimate on an item, and then Garriup may have been higher than that. So when you aggregate all those, it looks like it is $100,000 more, but the items that make it more expensive are different across the three companies. So it's.
And this is, I think your kids are upset about this bid as well.
Yeah.
So the amount of money is coming from the Healthcare Foundation, correct?
Correct.
On this job. And you've been a good steward of their dollars. I want to be a good steward of it. I don't want to reduce the quality. I really am opposed to reducing the quality. And is there someone else that can do the work or that we can add to the bid process than those individuals?
Yeah, I mean, if we rebid, we can definitely, encourage other companies to put in bids as well. That's not an issue.
So if we accept these bids today but not award, then kind of put these bids under further scrutiny, kind of to some of the points that have been made already. We're not committing ourselves to anything beyond just accepting them. We can still potentially rebid if we feel that that's the right course of action.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
But you can also negotiate right now with the bidders.
We can't. Not really negotiate. What we can do is look at value engineering and see what items we believe we'd be able to maybe modify the type of construction and reduce costs and things like that. So, for instance, we looked at different methods of construction for our center concrete curb. There might be a cheaper method of construction for our center concrete curb, so we could kind of guess that that was an item that we could reduce. So we really need to, we took this item by item, and we cut some out of it, but we need to take more time. We really want to look more and get into each item and figure out how we can, like you said, keep the quality of the project and hopefully get it within the budget we have available.
And you would bring those change in engineering before the Board of Works, before it would be?
Correct, yeah. So this is a unit price contract. So if we're able to get to a point where we're comfortable with the scope and we're comfortable with everything, we would have still awarded this unit price contract, but likely we would change the quantities of the units above the, so we would still with modified quantities.
And vendors could come back to you, though, with reduced cost? Or no, they have to stick to that budget and then unless we rebid?
Yeah. No, yes, they could come back to us. Well, the low bidder could come back to us with reduced cost. We can't negotiate with other bidders.
Right.
We could work with the low bidder, and what we've done in the past to make sure we're following bid laws is we've actually essentially awarded and issued a change order simultaneously. So you award and then you issue a change order. If there's additional items or costs or quantities that you need to change within the contract outside of the current pay items and list of items.
And you said Garrett is the one you're recommending?
Gary Up, yep.
Gary Up. Where are they based out of?
Gary Up's based out of Gary. They're a good local contractor. They bid on a lot of our projects. They haven't received their projects. They do quality work. They're a union contractor, and they use their laborers and operators from all over the region. But my guess is they have LaPorte employees just as well as any of the other large contractors would.
Any other discussion?
Obviously, I think this is something we really ought to take a close look at to see what's the right next move with this, but not to slow it up. I think it's appropriate to accept the bids and then, kind of go over with the fine tooth comb, like Nick's suggesting, to see what options there might be in order to, again, not lose the quality. We don't want to be looking down 5 years later, looking back saying, gosh, I wish we wouldn't have done that, because now it's going to cost us some more money to make the improvement or the change. So I'm good with approving the acceptance of the bids.
I do have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All in favor state by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Thanks, Nick.
No problem.
Bert Cook, unfinished business, downtown parking request.
Thank you, Mayor. It's late in your agenda. We've been working on this, and when I say we, I mean myself and Angela Rose, our downtown director. Angela's doing most of the heavy lifting. She's going to jump in here in a second and give you some details. But just to give you a quick overview, our illustrious mayor had a terrific idea on how we can benefit some of our businesses downtown. With the new normal that has been brought about through the COVID situation, I think it really makes sense to focus in on those ways that the city can assist some of our local businesses in kind of operating in new ways. And one of those things is curbside pickup. It's obviously become very popular. We're looking to strengthen that and maybe set some of our restaurants up for the future. The idea would be that we are setting aside one parking space in proximity to our local restaurants and retailers in order for those businesses to utilize the spot for just quick pickup. This is a pretty common practice in other communities. I think we've all probably been to different restaurants that have this feature, which allows you to basically pull up into a spot, call the predefined number on the sign, and then the restaurant will bring your food directly out to you, and you can go from there. We have, Angela has developed a design for the signs and an application that we would utilize. We bring those to the Board of Public Works in each instance. There is a $25 fee which covers the creation of the sign, and we've created some general parameters that are one parking spot per location, things like that. So I know Angela has some restaurants already that are excited about this potential, but the idea would be that the Board of Public Works would give us some definition of whether or not you're favorable on this concept. If so, we would go ahead and get the marketing out there, accept applications, and we would bring those to you for approval on a case-by-case basis at your upcoming meetings. So I'll stop talking now. I think Angela's on here. Angela, please feel free to fill in some of the details.
And do you need a motion, Bert?
Well, I'd let Angela maybe speak a little bit to some of the details, and then yes, Mayor, if you wanted to move forward, we would need a motion.
Okay. Angela, go ahead.
Yeah, so I know this idea has been brought up by retailers often about needing some curbside pickup. So I know places like Hotspot Cafe mentioned it on a call last week, Enzo's, places like that. The sign basically will have the company logo. It'll tell people, stay in your car, call the number as soon as you get to the business, and have the number in big bold letters so that they can see it a little bit better. The signs we're ordering locally to support some local businesses, and then they can be installed wherever the business prefers that pickup spot to be. Is there specific questions about the applications?
Council does this, not Board of Works.
Okay, Attorney Otis just informed me that the council will approve this, not Board of Works, so we appreciate the information. I'm very supportive of it and continue to move forward with the council. Mr. Kosher, Ms. Romine, any discussion or support of them taking this to the council?
Just curious how many spots we're looking at, since premium's already or parking's already at a premium downtown. How many spots do we think we're going to have tied up for specific businesses?
It's a good question, Jessica. I guess it's at this point we sort of don't know until they apply. My guess is that most of our downtown restaurants will find this as a valuable tool and will make application. So, I think we could be talking about 10 to 20 spots throughout the downtown, maybe at full execution. But it's also important to note that we're intending to hold put the hours on the signs as well, so when they're not in use for curbside pickup, they would be available for traditional parking as the rest of the downtown.
And Mr. Cook, how long will these last? Is this permanent? Is this short term? What's your time frame?
Well, I mean, I think nothing, we can always reevaluate. My opinion would be this is pretty common application in other communities. It's been very successful there. I would think that would lead us to have some confidence that it will be successful here. So I would suggest we implement it for a period of time, and we can continue to reevaluate. If for some reason in the future it's not helpful or it's not working, we can always rescind at that point.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Cook. Thank you, Angela.
Thanks.
Is there any other business?
Mayor, no questions from.
There are no questions on social media. So with that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Mr. Kosher, that's how good we are to get you to your next meeting at 9:59.
Oh my gosh.
We are adjourned.
That's accurate.
Have a great day, everybody.
All right, take care.